Greetings and salutations, my fellow patrons in the North Country and beyond. Once again, we are going at you on We Got Nothing. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the fact that at the time of this recording, we are 2 days away from a new year, a new beginning, and saying goodbye to what was 2021, warts and all. Although I must say it has not been that bad of a year, especially if you are a grade A #1 geek in more ways than one.
Absolutely. We got nothing, but 2021 had a lot.
Yeah, they say, what is it? Hindsight is 2020. I think, I think 2021 is when you get like dust in your eye, so leaves you blind, sorta.
Yes, hindsight is eyes on your butt, and that's cool.
Yeah, got him. And with that being said, also, please help me welcome my guest at this time. He is the patriarch of Life on Saturn Productions, the guy who helped start this whole shenanigans-ridden podcast. Please help me welcome one Mr. Saturn Lunar Nova, aka Dom Monette. What is up, my good dude?
Ooh, not bad. Just finished the new Boba Fett episode, and I am pretty pumped. Like, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but
So,
definitely.
so does it live up to the hype?
I mean, for a first episode, it's pretty good. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better. It definitely has that. They don't go like too over budget with it. They keep it simple, you know.
That's all they need to.
The Mandalorian, you know.
Yeah, that's all they need to do. But besides, like, oh my god, when I saw that Boba came out last year on the second season of The Mandalorian, I was just like, yo, they can do so much with this story right now, and now it's finally coming to fruition. It's like you always say, now is the time to be a geek, a nerd in every facet of pop culture media right now. Oh my god.
Yeah, you know, I like the grand scale stuff, but even more, I like it when they just keep it simple. Kind of like the Hawkeye show. You know, they didn't go endgame with it. They kept it to where he's like a street level Avenger, and he's going through like, you know, kind of a tiny problem in the grand scale of the Marvel universe, and I like that. You know,
Well,
keep it simple.
well, the thing about it is, as they would say in journalism, the devil's in the details. Now, apply that statement to these stories that we consume via visual media or even interactive media. Like, the thing about it is, the best way to define these worlds, the worlds of Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and beyond, it's usually looking at the microscopic details that make up the whole picture. That means individual stories of not just the big time players, but also the people that would be considered street level.
Right.
Now, speaking of which, how have you enjoyed the offerings from the geek gods this 2021?
I mean, yeah, because, you know, with 2021 and the pandemic, you know, they really held a lot of stuff back, and then they just gave it all to us and blew that load in our face this year, and I have no words. There's just so much. Like, it's been quite a blessing, you know?
Yes, yes.
And choose 5 favorite things from this year of all of the nerdom that we got was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Well, the thing about it also is after we got raw dogged on a lot of not just real world stuff last year, but also the stuff like as nerds we like to consume, we deserve to have a load spewed in our face just for all the work we put in, if you get what I mean.
I do, absolutely.
Speaking of which, well, first off, what out of all the offerings that we received this year, what are your top 5? And we can go into detail on why.
All right, so I'm gonna say, starting off at number 5, you know, I'm gonna choose a Disney Plus show because, you know, I like everything we got, and, you know, I want to say, you know, I want to put WandaVision on this list. I want to put, you know, The Winter Soldier. I want to put but I have to go for number 5. I have to go with Loki, only because it wasn't my favorite show on Disney Plus, but it did flip my opinion about Loki.
I
He
was
was always a
about to
character.
say you have never liked Tom Hiddleston's Loki, like Loki in general.
Yeah, yeah, and just simply because he was always overhyped, and in the comics he's pretty cool, but it's so far ever since the first Thor movie, he's just so overhyped, and he keeps coming back, and people love him so much, and I never understood. I mean, I get Tom Hiddleston's a good-looking, charming guy. He adds like that charm to the role, but like Loki is not interesting whatsoever until this Loki show. And the fact that this Loki show like flipped my opinion about him, like I got to give respects. This one's going on my list, at number 5.
Well, here was the interesting thing about Loki that really shocked me. I honestly I hate to rank it above WandaVision, but I absolutely will because this this television series not only brought much beloved depth, more character depth to a long-running MCU character that obviously can divide people on opinions of him or the relevancy of him within the universe. Not only did it do that, but honestly, this was the show that kicked open the whole multiverse concept. I mean, they flirted with it to the highest degree in Endgame, and we always, up until now, had gotten the breadcrumbs for it, but fucking Loki kicked open the door to that concept. I mean, it's within the first episode. The very first episode, freaking, he's in the office of that interdimensional cop complex there. And what do they have on the office cart? A whole bunch of infinity stones. And like the dude's like, yeah, we use them as paperweights all the time. That's when my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the best series I've watched so far.
Yeah, beautifully enough, they took all the characters that they didn't have time to give depth to in the Avengers series, and they're like, let's do it. Let's give, Winter Soldier and Falcon more depth because we didn't have time to do it. Let's give it to Loki. Let's give it to Wanda. Wanda had like her love story between Vision, like was non-existent to me because like they throughout the Avengers films they barely had enough time to establish that love, and then here's a show to like do it, and they did it in a very Twilight Zone way, and I loved that, and so if anybody needed more depth, they gave it to him. Hawkeye, the whole Ronin thing, we talked about this before, like they had no time to really establish that in Endgame, but they did it here in the show. Like, they tied all loose ends and made all the minuscule characters that much more awesome.
What I also like is that these new Marvel shows have like are genre bending so many different concepts along with these character studies. What is it? Loki in particular, it wasn't just like just the usual Marvel fare. No, it was definitely almost like a buddy cop show because you had Owen Wilson's character kind of using what is it, Loki as an informant and almost like a last resort to stop the female Loki from doing whatever she was doing, Sylvie there. But like then it goes from that and it turns into almost kind of like a love story and almost like what is it, a redemption arc for Loki, while at the same time revealing what the true plans are for the MCU going forward. Because I mean, it wasn't really him, but towards the end of the series, my boy Kang the Conqueror. Oh,
That was a great surprise.
what's up?
I said I never thought I'd see Owen Wilson in the MCU, let alone winning our hearts without dropping one oh wow. And then just King at the end was just like icing on the cake. I did not see that coming because, during this time, this is when everybody was name dropping Mephisto. Every single show, people were on the Mephisto train this year. I don't know if you remember that, but it's like
No,
every
right,
5 seconds.
right. I mean, they were dropping breadcrumbs for it. You can see in some of the Easter eggs, but like even so, like Like Kang seems like he will be the big bad for the next three phases of it, but I'm hoping that it's not because if what they're trying to establish with the multiverse is as big as they say they are, then logically I could only say that going forward they got to some at some point bring the breadcrumbs for Galactus, especially once they introduce Fantastic Four into the mix.
Oh yeah, I'm most pumped about Galactus. You for now we've got all the reality breaking big bads like Kang, who's coming in Ant-Man Quantumania, but I just hope that Galactus is our next Thanos. You know, the character that we take a decade to build up to.
Yep.
I'm very confident that the MCU will finally give us a Fantastic Four, worthy of like a franchise. I liked the previous Fantastic Four, the one that flopped with Michael B. Jordan. I know it was bad, but it had some stuff in there that was like pretty good.
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real. The original iteration of the Fantastic Four still remains the best out of them because what
The
is
one
it?
with Michael Chiklis.
Oh, absolutely. People give it shit for having the foam looking rocks that made up the thing's skin, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, I did not have a single problem with that couple of movies. Well, actually, I did. I mean, I loved the Silver Surfer. What they did with him was so cool, but they did Galactus dirty, and that's the only thing I could say they did wrong in the Fantastic Four series was like they did Galactus dirty. I don't understand why people hated that so much. Like when I was a kid, those two movies were amazing, and I didn't know they were bad until I got older. And as most movies, I didn't know Daredevil was bad till I got older. I didn't know, like the movies that flopped, like Elektra. I didn't know that people hated these until I got older.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. We'll round about to some of those key points later. Now, for number five, this one is a little bit more low key. For me,
I know number five was Loki. Yes.
yeah, nice. Nah, number five for me was the final season of Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is an anime that can be watched on stuff like I believe you can watch it on Crunchyroll, and the way I've been watching it was through Hulu there, and I got Hulu Live, so that really helps with that stuff. But first off, are you familiar with Attack on Titan at all?
It's like on my list to watch. I haven't seen it yet, but I am very familiar with it. I know like there's all these different types of monsters, but
Yeah,
then you have these giant that have no skin or some shit.
yeah, so like Crash Course, like it's almost like an alternate reality where humanity is locked off from the rest of the world behind like huge castle gates, giving it almost like a medieval look to it, but at the same time they kind of have a steampunk technological base going on there in terms of their military. And basically the humans behind these walls are at war with a race of beings called the Titans. Titans that can grow up to God the size of a skyscraper, and ones that are can be as tall as a four-story house. And basically the Titans they eat humans. And but as you go more forward into the series, it's not. There are so many twists and turns because there are political games being played. The Titans aren't what they seem to be, and then you get into philosophical questions like what is war really good for? How does that affect the soldiers and the people that are controlling them as if they're pawns on a chessboard? More importantly, it asks the questions like just because one group of people in humanity is different, does that necessarily make them evil? And it really asks like the questions of war and how that affects humanity and you as a person. It gets
A lot
heartbreaking
of
at times.
a lot of real life shit going on there too.
Yeah, no, it's I would like to say it right now, and this term has been used a lot. It is kind of the Game of Thrones of anime at the moment because characters that you love will bite the dust in the most gruesome of ways. And Oh my god, and characters will change up their what is it? Will take heel turns and or turn face, and it's just like it can be very emotional at times, in other words.
Good, good. I'm super looking forward to it. We watched Game of Thrones at the beginning of this year. It was my first time plowing through all of it. It was really good. But I like those type of shows like Walking Dead. You invest in someone just to get your heart broken, and then you're mad and you avoid the show for about a month and you get back into it.
Well, while we're on the subject of Game of Thrones, I'll use this springboard to go into my number four. For Christmas this year, I got one thing that was very quite a staple in my childhood. I got the legendary remastered edition of the first three Mass Effect video games. Now, do you know anything about them?
No, like, it's a series I've always heard about. Don't know much about it.
So basically, again, using Game of Thrones as an example, Mass Effect, the video game series, was definitely like a Game of Thrones, but set mixed with Star Wars in a big sci-fi romp in space. Now, here was the interesting thing why I use that example. So, in all earnesty, the way that the Mass Effect games works, they are role-playing games, they are third-person shooters, they have great story elements. Now, what may turn some people off is that unlike a lot of role-playing games nowadays, Mass Effect started what would be known as the Paragon Renegade system, the either you're good or you're evil. You see that in a lot of games nowadays with stuff like the Telltale games. Infamous is one of those video game series that is absolutely notorious for it. Now, the thing about it is these video game structures for role-playing games in which your choices have consequences that not only affect how the story can end, but can affect how your character develops in terms of the story. Now, unlike the other games that I mentioned, Mass Effect, I think, is one of the only games that have made like this black or white decision making and made it work. Because the thing about it is, there are three games in the trilogy. Each one is like north of 50 hours or more, so you're going to get your money's worth and time's worth with them games. But the thing about it is, you have got to play them all within the same order because your choices in the first game actually affect you all the way up until the end of the third game. Not many, I honestly can't recall any video games up until that point that had actually followed through with that systemic storytelling, especially within the genre, in the medium. So, what was it? BioWare and Mass Effect really kicked open the door for those kind of stories because it's not just three games. It's one big, long video game, almost like a visual interactive novel. So, like, say, in the first game, if somebody gets killed based off decisions you made, they're gone. They're gone for the entire series. Kind of like Game of Thrones, like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no. And what really impresses me about the video game is not just the nostalgia. These were games I played during my middle school and childhood days, but the absolute details that are packed into this universe. So much backlore. There are so many different alien races, so many different. There's actual political intrigue between the races. And then, of course, they have their own version of what would be the White Walkers, basically, this unknown threat against the entirety of civilization. They would be known as the Reapers. And God, they make the White Walkers look like Santa's elves. I'll say that much. Yeah, highly suggest the series if you're ever looking for something interactive or like need to turn off your brain but want to look at a good story.
Hell yeah. I will. My number 4 is also a game. It is Hitman 3, which holy crap! I've always been a Hitman fan since Blood Money. I know there were Hitman games before that, but I had never played them. And then, when I was a kid, I ended up getting Hitman Blood Money and just like really fell in love with that series.
The thing
I've always
about it
loved.
is the thing about it is Hitman Blood Money was the game that kind of perfected the formula because it was
I
less
would say,
about the story and more about the systemic gameplay. Is like you could kill anybody any which way you could, and if you didn't do it stealthily, there would be some interesting consequences.
yes, more often than none, I play in the way where I just kill everybody on the map and then do my missions. But I think what I like about the newest Hitman 3 is surprisingly it truly won me over, and I think it might be the best Hitman game I've ever played. It has probably the fewest maps of a Hitman game I've ever played, but what they do have for maps is they're so in depth and so much more beautiful than any other Hitman game, and it's a game that I've beat every map like so many times already, but I'm still finding new shit all the time, and it just blows my mind. And then the online experience, it just for once, like I don't want to play the game in a way where I kill everybody and then do the missions. I actually like want to challenge myself, just because the game makes it so fun. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, no,
I highly.
I played the first chapter of the new Hitman games a while back, and God, they perfected the formula. Like the stealth is on point. The open-ended environments really give you the sense of challenging yourself, and also kind of being much more creative with your kills, more than any other hit game in history.
Yeah, they have this one level that they just actually there's a couple levels in the new Hitman game that are so different than the other ones. Like one level is called Apex Predator. You are going to a party in the middle of the woods. It's in a big like factory, and there's an agency trying to hunt you down, and you're going into the heart of like all of these agents, and you're trying to prove a point by taking them down to show them that they shouldn't be messing with the Apex Predator. And then the very last level of the game is like straight out of an old school, like first person shooter game, but it's a third person Hitman game. But like you're going through a train car, you're going through a train, and you're going from car to car, and you're just like taking people out. It just I don't know. There's just like some kind of old school video game nostalgia there. It definitely hit like all the right notes for me.
Right. Okay, I got you
And
there.
then I would say going into my number three, which is also a video game, uh, and I don't know, it's just Fortnite. I think this year they truly killed it. I've tried telling all my friends, including you, that if you're a nerd, this is the ultimate game. Like every year, Fortnite is updating their game to include more and more game dynamics from vehicles and the way you kill people, the way the tasks that you do, and it's like a lot of people have this idea of what Fortnite is, but they're wrong. There's so much more to it. There's like most times like I can go through a single match without having to fight anybody because I'm doing all these tasks. And not only that, it's the ultimate nerd game now. I mean, this year alone they came out with Naruto, Tomb Raider, Spider-Man, Boba Fett,
Now,
Mandalorian. Like
Now that's the
they're all
thing
on there.
that it astounds me that they can get so many licenses from so many different popular properties and place them within the battle royale formula. Like no other game is doing something like that right now. That's what astounds me.
Exactly. How many games can you be Marvel characters and DC characters and fight each other?
And anime characters, like damn.
And anime characters. I mean, we got Naruto, and there's rumors that there are Dragon Ball Z characters coming.
I
You
saw
know,
that. I was like, really? Damn.
yeah. What's your number three?
My number three. Well, for number three, I think I will go into the deep, dark recesses of my mind and pull out a horror. But but it's a very lighthearted horror. For me, number three has to be Freaky with Vince Vaughn. Now,
I've never.
you haven't seen it? Okay,
No.
so do you remember way back when There was a movie called Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, of course.
Yep, yep.
You
So,
look like the Crypt Keeper.
yes, yes. Imagine, okay, so replace Jamie Lee Curtis with a absolutely psychopathic and actually legitimately terrifying Vince Vaughn, and basically the slasher killer switches places with the final girl, and and the result is you have a horror comedy that is not only good with its gory kills, but also actually legitimately gives you so much terror in the fact that the killer is in an unsuspecting form, but he's still fucking psycho. And then
Okay.
and then you add in the comedy aspect about the fact that, and props to Vince Vaughn, because this is one of the best roles I've seen him in, because he doesn't not only does he have to make the switch from psychopathic killer, he also has to make the switch to a teenage girl who's worried about so many problems, like, do boys like me? Am I pretty enough? Or am I strong enough to keep on going, especially knowing the situation that I'm in. And it reaps so much comedy that is so relatable from during times that we were younger. And it breathes new life into the slasher genre by sticking to traditional slasher tropes, but just really changing the color of the painting, if that makes more sense.
So would you say it's like half and half for comedy and horror, or is it more comedy than horror?
Um, I gotta be honest, it's 50-50, but the thing about it is, both sides of that 50-50 are A quality, at least in my opinion.
Okay.
Like,
It's been a while since I've seen a good Vince Vaughn movie.
it's been a while since I've seen a good slasher film. Like, not many, like, there's been, in the past couple years, slasher has been all but dead, no pun intended, and, but then you
That's
get...
true. Aside from Scream 5 coming, all of the famous iconic horror characters were slasher films, and yeah.
And the thing about it is, going off of what you're saying about Scream, Scream has already been done, though. Like, that's nostalgia. The thing I'm saying is stuff like Freaky, and I will include the Happy Death Day movies with this statement as well. These are original takes on a horror genre that has never always gotten mad respect, but who can blame them, especially when you look at later sequels of stuff like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and how those characters all but divulged into cartoon territory.
Well, with horror, like, horror has always been like a reflection of society and what we're going through, like we know why Godzilla was created, like why that was scary when it first came out back in the day. So those other, do you think there's a reason why we're not scared of slasher anymore? Is there a reason why they're not making slasher films like based on society? Like maybe we're not scared of people anymore, we're scared of bigger elements.
So, yeah, here's the thing about it. The first couple slasher films were that of, obviously Psycho was the first one, but this was just when humanity was starting to acknowledge that your neighbor isn't necessarily always your best friend. And then you add in movies like Black Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and of course, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is based off of several real-life serial killers. That's representing the fears of that at the time, where people were finally realizing that the world was changing and that a lot of people don't always have the best of intentions at the time. And like the breed of the spotlight being more on people that are deranged or mentally deranged and what happens when society fails those people. And how those very same people cope with their existence, or how it's inflicted upon the rest of us in society. Now you fast
So
forward. Now you fast forward to nowadays. One of the biggest reasons the slasher genre it has all but died is because we're desensitized to these kind of events, to these kind of people, because like what is it? Especially in the past like 5 years, it seems like every few months there's a school shooting, or somebody's getting killed over something absolutely stupid, or some dude or some woman or somebody with poor mental health are
right,
committing atrocities because nobody in society, especially within the higher ups, has ever helped them or have tried to help them. B, there has been no what do you call it, containment plans if these same people with poor mental health should act upon their worst impulses. And the fact with the media always playing these stories to get a rise, to get headlines, eventually you become desensitized about it. There was a psychological study done where it it proves that once the human mind experiences an evil deed done to it, the first few times the human will do the evil deed, they are going to be absolutely shocked to their core and would want to vomit, would probably hate themselves. But the more that you do it, the more desensitized you become to it. So apply that statement to the horror genre and what we fear nowadays. A lot of our fears at the current moment come from the existential rather than uh, the external. It,
right. So I could see why like a Freaky Friday horror film would be a good slasher for today. With two people who are completely different putting each other in each other's shoes. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like there's room for slasher films to come back, considering the last 5 years has created so much civil unrest that maybe once again we have fear of our neighbors again. Who knows?
well,
It might come.
well, I mean, what is it? Jordan Peele's remake sequel of
Candyman.
Candyman there was absolutely a point blank look at where modern fear really stems in society nowadays. Like, did you ever see that?
Not yet, but everything I've seen from him, at first I was like, oh man, this guy from Key and Peele, like this comedian is going to start making horror films. But like when he makes horror films, he does not make a horror film unless he has something to say.
Yeah, no, this remake of Candyman there, reboot more accurately, actually so basically, the way they're going with it is the legend of Candyman. You got to say his name 5 times in order to make him appear. It absolutely echoes to the times of 2020 and how BLM really exploded with the deaths of Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all of those victims that some to this day, a lot to this day, still have not gotten justice. So, like, it's almost like saying their name brings out that sin and that evil back again, similar to how saying Candyman again brings his spirit back.
Wow.
Mm.
Now I have to know, and spoiler alert to those listening, but is Tony Todd in this movie?
Yes, but not long.
Oh, okay.
All I
Is
w-
it one of those things where they kind of keep the killer more of a mystery for fear for fear reasons?
Not exactly. The way it works is so Candyman is not a specific entity. Candyman is it's almost it's almost like a spiritual entity that is built off of the misfortunes and sins done upon black people over the years. It's almost like, I forget what the name of such a spiritual entity is, but basically it's made off of that anger, that absolute unfair, those unfair, those unfair crimes done upon black people, and it almost manifests itself into a spirit that takes the form of those same souls that were absolutely wronged.
Wow.
Tony Todd's version of Candyman does eventually appear in the movie, but the way Jordan Peele had written it, I mean, there are some points where the pacing in the movie could be better, but like the way he wrote the lore, his version of the lore of Candyman was absolutely profound. Not only was it more in his genre of social thriller, but it was a good supernatural piece as well.
Wow, I'm excited. That's
Oh,
good because I think the biggest problem with the original Candyman, it's the first Candyman. The other sequels are debatable,
trash.
but the first one's always been good. But it was white created, right?
You are right.
So it's good to see someone who has a real opinion to make this movie. That's good.
Now, what is your number two?
Okay, my number two is Shangchi.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
aside from the Abomination making an appearance, which is not a spoiler because it was in the trailer, but aside from the Abomination making an appearance, like, this did not feel like a Marvel film. This was a love letter to martial arts. Like, this movie was really good. I mean, even either a person or a few people from Jackie Chan's stunt team choreographed some fights in this movie. The fighting was just so good. And then there were scenes that felt like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That wire work fighting that almost looks like dancing.
Yes,
it had
but
everything.
yeah, but the parts that you were talking about with the flying stuff, it looked so much better because of the special effects added to Marvel nowadays, and more importantly, like the way that they added the martial arts and mixed them with actual superpowers and whatnot really has me more pumped for something in the future, like if they did, say, another live action Dragon Ball movie. Only this one would not be hot garbage. Because now they don't have any excuses. Shang-Chi broke some records in terms of like how to present the visual style of these big time hand to hand combat battles. More importantly, they did the Mandarin justice finally.
Yes. No longer Fu Manchu.
Uh, all due respect to Sir Ben Kingsley, I love him as a human, and I actually grew to love his character more in the MCU after that movie. But
Yeah, actually,
that being said,
Marvel's
he ain't no Mandarin.
They're doing a good job lately of redeeming anything that was a problem before. So, like, I felt like the Shang-Chi movie redeemed Ben Kingsley and actually made him likable. Like, for some reason, I actually really liked him in the Shang-Chi movie, and I feel like I can go back and watch Iron Man 3 with a much better mindset. However, I'm still not happy about AIM, the company AIM in Iron Man 3, but I have a feeling that, they'll always have that in their back pocket to come to. I mean, there's still some villains under the AIM corporation that they could pull. Who knows? We'll see. On a side note, did you hear the rumors that Jim Carrey could be MODOK?
Get the fuck out of here! Really?
Yeah, that one really gets me pumped, and it just has to happen now. It's kind of like Spider-Man: No Way Home. It's like once the rumors that Toby and Andrew were going to be in the movie, it's just like everyone's just like, dude, they got to be in it, or else I'm going to walk out of the theater unhappy. Now we need Jim Carrey as MODOK.
Oh, Jim, that gives me so much pleasure hearing that. Oh God, I can't wait for that. No, that's gonna be awesome.
And also, on another side note, Patton Oswalt's MODOK came out this year as well, and I would say that's worth watching. Man, it's really hard to choose a top 5 nerd things that we appreciate the most this year, because this year gave us so much, and I wish I could put everything on my list, but I had to choose the 5 things that just had that just had the biggest impact on me. And Shangchi is definitely on that list. It's been a while since we got like a solo hero film that I feel like I want to watch 5 times in a row. That was such a good movie.
Right. Well, with Shang-Chi showing New Beginnings, these next 2 that I will name for myself show with every beginning, there's always an end. So for my number 2, and this is one that is very near and dear to my heart, it is the final season of F is for Family on Netflix.
Oh man, what a good show.
Oh my God. So people have their own opinions of Bill Burr, especially for his comedy and which subjects he tackles, and his own opinions.
Never has there been a character more fitting for Bill Burr. And we all know a Frank. We all do.
We all know a Frank Murphy. And I also got to give Bill some props. Shout out from last year's... from one of last year's big time shows, the second season of The Mandalorian. Bill showed that he had range, scary range. And I always respect when actors can venture outside of their comforting craft to prove that, yeah, I'm not just all shits and giggles, bro.
I find it humorous because, like, who's the woman that was recently canceled from Mandalorian?
Gina Carano.
Yeah, Gina there. It's like Bill Burr is openly, like, he stirs up a lot of controversy. People have no idea how to feel about him, because they're like, oh, is he like liberal, or is he like far left? Is he blah blah blah? And it's like, you have no idea, because his opinions are always so aggressive, and you think he would be canceled out of The Mandalorian, but instead it was Gina.
Well, the thing about Bill is that I would say he would, my opinion, I think he gives off more of a libertarian vibe to him. But
I would agree.
But the thing about it is, people still keep Bill around because, like, a lot of his jokes can be controversial, but especially if you listen to his podcast with him and his wife, like, you realize there's so much more in terms of heart and depth to the man. Like, he's
not a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy. He doesn't have a filter. And in some sectors of this society, maybe that's needed, even if you don't agree with what he says.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. I agree. He makes good points, and he's funny about it, and he yells a lot. I think just that aggression makes people nervous.
Yeah, I can see that. But going back to F is for Family, when this series started, like, it was one of the top big Netflix animated original shows that had came out. Like, for a long time, Netflix, in my opinion, has been the king for a while of adult animation, especially when Adult Swim were scrounging to find their voice back. Like, I mean, you look at shows like Bojack Horseman, F is for Family, Big Mouth. These are shows that tackle some of the most controversial and absolutely cringeworthy subjects in real life, and do it in a way that is funny to the point where you don't want to admit this is funny and creepingly accurate.
Yeah, it's hard to say, like, out of all those shows you named, what I like the most. I mean, Big Mouth, like, makes me laugh the most. F is for Family is just like, oh man, it's the most relatable for me, because I know people like that. And then BoJack Horseman, oh my god, I never feel like shit more than watching that show. Like, holy crap, does that show put you in a bad place? I can't binge watch BoJack Horseman.
Nobody can. Like, what is it? If BoJack was a psychological study on how depression affects everyone, but it doesn't matter how it affects you if you are not willing to change. F is for family is the signal of what past family trauma does to you. But if you do not take the time to heal and move past it, you can very well end up. It goes back to the Dark Knight concept. You either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And this season, Frank was put to the ultimate test because, what is it? His father had just died. He felt like he was really starting to get in touch with him and in touch with who he is as a person. And then once his father dies, like, he has to take care of his new baby. And then, like, towards the end of the series, you come to realize that Frank is just like his dad in so many aspects. And it isn't until Frank finally fully acknowledges that he can start to change and actually enjoy his life.
Yeah, in more of a meta way, it's like the first couple seasons of F is for Family is like, yeah, oh man, we all know a character like Frank. But this season in particular, I feel like Frank is more relatable to everyone than ever before. He's like in a place where he's like learning that, oh man, I hate my dad so much, but I act just like him. And it's like we all have to unlearn the worst parts of our parents. We all have problems with our parents, but we act just like our parents, and we have to unlearn those toxic behaviors. I do that myself. Like I do things that I know that like how I process things, how my anxiety kicks in, how I react to anything problem wise. I act just like my parents, you know what I mean? And that's something I'm trying to unlearn because it messed me up in my life, you know. And
same here.
What Frank's doing. Frank is acknowledging the piece of shit qualities in him, and he's trying to be better. And I was just like, I really admired this season of the show.
Now, the thing about it is it also speaks to the truth of the matter. When it comes to healing, when it comes to unlearning, and when it comes to building up, building something new in its place, something stronger, sturdy, something you made by making your own rules, you have to do it. You have to do it by yourself, but you don't have to do it on your own, if that makes any sort of sense. Like, you can ask for help, but you have to be willing to put in the effort to ask for help and put in the work to make it happen.
Yeah, the biggest struggle is with your own ego and accepting that you are flawed. You know, a lot of people don't want to admit they're wrong, and that's the hardest thing to do.
Well, what is it? It's psychologically proven that if you call out somebody for something they fucked up on, they treat it as a legitimate physical attack on their safety.
Yeah, very relatable.
But and also on a side note, and I did not realize this until they did a tribute for him on one of the episodes. Do you know Smokey, the black dude in the merchandise van?
Oh my god! Yeah. Now that you're mentioning it, that was the thing about this new season was like almost every episode ended with this person died and that person died. Like 3 or 4 people died in that fucking show.
Yes, and what is it? I've been saying this for a while now, but rest in peace, Michael K. Williams, because like this actor has been one of my more favorites in the past like 3 years because what is it? First show I got into with him was on The Wire. The Wire is one of the most perfect shows I have ever seen. I'm actually rewatching it right now as we speak. Well, not as we speak, obviously, otherwise you'd hear it. But the absolute humanity that he brings to a character that many would be considered like not realistic, i.e., being Omar Little, is phenomenal. And plus his work in Boardwalk Empire, Lovecraft Country, and the fact that I know he voiced Smokey in F is for Family not only brings so much joy to my heart, but it also makes it break, because in spite of his own substance abuse issues, this was a man that was talented and brought so much to every role that he ever had.
Absolutely. I mean, and plus, whenever, the time when Frank had to work with him, he put Frank in check a lot. He had a lot of the best lines. And then it was so funny, dude, this season when Frank gave his kid there, Justin Long's character, it gives him to him, and he's like so heartbroken over the girl he lost that Smokey like throws him back because he's all depressed.
Fucking A. Some of my favorite lines are when Smokey's like, tell me, Frank Murphy, is your name Larry? Referring to Smokey's albino son. Williams really brought that character so much dark humor in terms of his philosophy, but he will be missed. And
yes, beast.
And on that note, what's your number 2? Oh wait, didn't you? Yeah, you already said yours.
Number 2 was Shang-Chi, but my number 1.
Your number 1.
I could be wrong, but I think is your number 1.
Oh, we gonna go there? All right, folks, drum roll.
There's no way home from here.
Oh, you got it best. All right. Number 1 on both our lists has got to be the piece de resistance, Spider-Man, No Way Home.
Yes, No Way Home was both nostalgia bait and excellently written. Like, just, it worked. Like, they nostalgia baited to get us in the theater, but then what they gave us was, like, high quality writing, and this is a new bar. You know what I mean? Like, this is what they have to do from now on. Like, if it's not better than No Way Home, then stop putting it out.
Now,
especially for a theater. I don't mean that on the shows, because the Disney Plus shows are doing good. Like I said with Hawkeye, I like that they didn't go so big with Hawkeye. They kept it like a small, contained story, and I like that for the shows. But the movies, No Way Home is the bar.
No Way Home. So what Loki did for the television shows is exactly what No Way Home did for the MCU going forward. Because it finally really took the time to explore the multiverse aspects that have been promised for so long. What is it? And then you add in the fact that they bring forth these iterations of the character that we have seen played by other artists into one cohesive plot. It's the perfect blend of nostalgia and setting up for the future. And more importantly, in my opinion, it is such a perfect movie. And I will say perfect, in my opinion, because it makes me laugh. It makes me cry. It genuinely shocked me. It hit the right nostalgia beats. And it also foreshadows where the MCU can go forward, not just with Spider-Man stuff, but the multiverse in general.
It helps confirm, like, a debate, like, personally, obviously, Tobey Maguire is always going to be my favorite Spider-Man, but I have always stuck up for Tom Holland, because it's like, people are like, where's the real struggle? Where's his Spidey combat and fighting? And I've always agreed with that, but at the same time, it's like, no, Tom Holland's playing a kid Spider-Man. He's clumsy. That's the thing. We've never gotten a Spider-Man who is so clumsy and learning what he's doing as he goes. And in the comics, like, Spider-Man, like, aside from Uncle Ben, doesn't experience a whole lot of real problems until, like, his college years. And we're about to get that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the future now.
And if this is the start of it, like, it really scares me on how it can go forward because what is it? So let's first start off with like the moments that that slap the most in terms of heartbreak, you know. So obviously, and this is the spoiler section of this podcast. Like, if you haven't seen it yet, what the hell are you doing with your life? A and B. Just fast forward till like 2 minutes before this podcast ends. So
Yeah, starting now, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in this movie.
facts, and Aunt May's dead.
You just had to go there.
Deadpan. Oh, that was unintentional. Oh, so you know what? This should have been seen coming because in every cinematic version of Spider-Man so far, at least two of Peter Parker's loved ones have bitten the dust, and that's not even getting into the different comic book storylines. But
And I think people got psyched out a little bit because in Far From Home, when Spidey was mourning the death of Iron Man, I think people might have assumed that that was his Uncle Ben moment. When no, and I mean he wasn't that close with Iron Man. I mean, and with that being said, he was close with Iron Man, but not Uncle Ben close. You know,
well, that was it right there. What is
yeah.
it? Holland's Spider-Man kind of flipped a lot of convention on its head because usually in the first two cinematic iterations versions of Spider-Man, it's it's the with great power comes great responsibility tragedy, as I'll say. That's what comes first, the death of Uncle Ben. But we never had an Uncle Ben in Holland's universe because May has been both Aunt May and Uncle Ben in the series. But the thing about it is, we needed to also explore the dynamic of the relationship between them before before we got a sense of where she stood in terms of her place in Peter's life. And that's when they choose to rip our hearts out, which is cruel but brilliant at the same time.
Right? It's like Marvel took notes from the Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man movie when he's like, first we attack his heart, and he goes after, Aunt May and Mary Jane, and that's exactly what they did with us in this movie. They're like, we are going after the audience's heart. They want to see Toby and Andrew, fine, but we're gonna break some hearts.
And these are some bittersweet moments too, i.e., being the redemption of Garfield's and Maguire's Spider-Man. Now, the first one with Garfield, the obvious one being when Zendaya's MJ, falls off the Statue of Liberty and Garfield catches her. Like, I mean, that was
a real tear. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was beautiful.
I mean, when Gwen Stacy dies in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that absolutely chewed up Garfield's Peter Parker and shat him out.
Yeah, to the point where in this No Way Home movie, Garfield's like, he was so devastated by that he stopped pulling his punches, which shows if we see any more of the Amazing Spider-Mans in the future, he might be the Dark Parker,
No, exactly. I know what you're talking about there. And then with Maguire's Spider-Man, it was a two-parter with his redemption. So the first part obviously being that he prevents Tom Holland's Parker from making the mistake he did once his Uncle Ben died, i.e. being he didn't directly kill the man who was responsible for Ben's death, but he pretty much set the stepping stones leading up to it. And that brought him no peace. That brought Maguire no peace. But the second part being, i.e., still relating to the very first Spider-Man film in the Sam Raimi trilogy, when Norman Osborn dies at his own hand, that was a major story beat that had always haunted Toby's Spider-Man, because he was never able. He wanted to save Norman, but he honestly he Norman killed himself, but that still doesn't change how Toby felt. And more importantly, his relationships with everyone were ultimately fractured after that.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Goblin betraying everybody was totally foreshadowed even in the first Spider-Man film. When the Goblin killed himself, he was pulling that game with Maguire, where he's just like, "Oh, Peter, what happened?" You know, like, he snapped out of it, and then his glider was coming until Parker did that backflip, and the glider killed Goblin. It's like, Goblin's done this before. He makes you think that he's okay, because he's not okay. He's trying to kill you still. You know what I mean? And dude, not like, props to the director of the movie, because the director could have just thrown the Spider-Man and the villains in the movie and we would have saw it anyway. But
Facts. Yep.
The director went in there making a good movie. Like, there were certain scenes that I felt like were a true art piece. Like when Holland's spider sense went off, when he had all the villains in Happy's apartment, and he's just walking around the apartment because his spider sense is going off, and you know something's wrong, and something is really fucking eerie about the moment, and then he web shoots Goblin's hand because he figures out it's him. It's like that whole scene when his spider sense went off and he stood up and he walked around the apartment. I was just like hanging on the edge. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
and
filmed.
Right, and let's go on with the absolute phenomenal beats of the film. Obviously, seeing the likes of... so I started the applause track at the theater when it came to seeing Garfield and Toby. And when we saw Charlie Cox reprising his role as Matt freaking Murdock. Oh! How'd you do that? I'm a good lawyer.
Oh, man. So good.
Now, I kind of got a sense that we were eventually going to see Cox come back, even though they had confirmed it, because, what was it, the episode of Hawkeye before No Way Home, they confirmed D'Onofrio had returned as the Kingpin, and I'm just like, so wait, if he's returning as Wilson Fisk, who's returning as Matt Murdock?
What my lingering question is about the movie is the footage, Mysterio's footage that says Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Now, the spell makes it to where everyone forgets he's Spider-Man, but does that spell erase footage? Because that's still out there. You know, that's one of those lingering plot holes in the movie. I'm like, okay, is Jonah there gonna like stumble upon the footage and watch it again and be like, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, or something? That's what I'm confused about.
But wait a minute. Do they during the video stuff did they show Parker's face? Because that's the interesting thing. That's the interesting thing about it. Because with Doctor Strange's spell, like, everyone forgets that Peter Parker exists, not Spider-Man. Peter Parker. So that is an interesting question.
Watch the clip and be like, "Oh, Peter Parker, Spider-Man." Well, there's 72 Peter Parkers in New York City, like, yeah, or some shit, right?
I don't know. Good. It's a good question, and remember, there was kind of a bit of foreshadowing when Strange casted the spell, where like, and this is where I really love Zendaya's portrayal of MJ. Like, she's just like, better come find me, or I'm gonna figure it out anyway and kick your ass. And I'm just like, ooh, interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the movie, when Peter left her, she had that lingering look on her face, like, he's familiar, kind of like the ending of the Butterfly Effect, you know, that deja vu.
Yes. But also, and seeing the villains. Now, this was obviously not the Sinister Six, at least not the kind we were hoping we were gonna get. But
this actually was not a Sinister Six movie. There was only 5 villains, you know.
I mean, if you count the secret ending, but you are right. I mean, it was
this was a Ferocious 5 movie.
A Ferocious 5. I like that. Yes, yes. But it also spoke to something you told me that Maguire, the Raimi verse, the Raimi Spider Verse had the best villains. Alfred, when everyone saw Alfred Molina return as Doc Ock in the trailer, the internet fucking broke. It didn't just break; it shattered.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, the long debate is who is the best Spider-Man. To this day, people on the internet are so annoying. They're still arguing about this shit. And like, I love all the Spider-Men, but if we want to be technical, it was Tobey Maguire's villains who fucked everybody up in this movie. Okay, so that shows me that Tobey had the hardest time as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so
no.
Best Spider- I don't know, but he's the strongest Spider-Man.
What is it? Goblin fucking tanked everyone, outsmarted everybody. And
Goblin alone could have destroyed everybody in the movie.
I know, and what is it? Doc Ock, God, it really spoke to the different character flaws each villain had. Like Doc Ock kind of had almost like a schizophrenic thing going on when the inhibitor chip that controlled the tentacles had shattered.
Absolutely.
And what is it? The Green Goblin is a personification of split personality, which has always been done in films since the dawning of time. But it really showed the torture behind the fact, because Goblin and Norman Osborn have always been separate entities in terms of Norman's psyche. So there's that, and then of course, I loved Jamie Foxx's Electro, but I gotta say, I think my favorite was Sandman, because he was kind of the only one out of them where he didn't have anything sinister up his sleeve. He just wanted to go home. He was like, nope, I don't care who's good, who's bad. I'm over this shit. Get me back in my own freaking universe.
Right. He's the most relatable person, you know, like when you're like Sandman vibes are that person who never wants to leave their bedroom and they have to go out into public and they're already ready to go home. Like,
no, facts. Yep.
I like some of the innovative things, like, you know, we saw in the trailer that Doc Ock was going to be in the movie. We expected, you know, a classic Doc Ock battle, but what I did not expect was Peter putting the nanotech onto Doc Ock's tentacles, and I was like, that blew my mind right away. I was like, that is one of the things that was unexpected in this movie. That was such a good idea. Like, props, man. Like, that was so cool.
Or how about the fact that Peter actually defeated Doctor Strange just by using his wit? Like, how many people in the MCU can say that they actually went toe-to-toe with Doctor Strange and managed to beat him? Like,
using geometry.
Using geometry. Like, he goes into an alternate universe. I know if I was there, I'd be like, nah, this shit don't make sense to me. Like, nah, I'm done. It's like a peyote trip, honestly.
Like any other time in a movie where they try to make schoolwork look cool, it's so cheesy. But this time it was fucking cool. It's like, yeah, kids, math is cool. You could defeat Doctor Strange. And they did it in such a fucking cool way. Like, it was not cheesy at all.
Any school teachers listening, take notes now. Spider-Man defeated a wizard with math. That's how you sell it to kids.
Yes, every geometry class will start off with that scene. Be like, kids, do you want to defeat Doctor Strange?
Yes.
You're in the right class.
Oh my god.
Dude, I gotta say, Jamie Foxx there had like the best. He had the best line in the movie because it was kind of a pun, or well, it kind of like led to, or it was a foreshadow. He's just like, oh man, you were saving all the poor people, and I just kind of thought you'd be black, right? Oh, there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere.
I loved.
A joke. Miles Morales, like a hint. Come on.
I mean, what is it? There's actually been some hinting towards Miles Morales in Holland's universe before, because if you recall Homecoming, fucking Donald Glover's Donald Glover's character that they're talking in the parking lot there, that's Miles Morales' uncle, the Prowler.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
totally down for that. Like I'm totally down for like a Miles Morales Spider-Man because I think people forget maybe how cool that Spider-Man is. It's with Tom Holland
just watch
and
Into
the
the
other
Spider-Verse.
Spideys,
That's all you need, though.
we have seen like Tom Holland, Maguire, and Andrew Garfield. They're all different, but at the same time, they're portraying the same Spider-Man, and it's time for a new one. And Miles Morales, he's stronger. He has the electric web. He's just like he's really cool. And on top of that, I would also love to see a movie of the Japanese Spider-Man because that shit is batshit crazy. I
I
don't know if you've ever
mean,
seen Japanese Spider-Man, but it probably will win you over.
the thing about it is, like, No Way Home is the closest thing we've gotten to a live action Spider-Verse film. So that makes me interested in like how they can play that more towards the future. Speaking of which, like we've gone through the nostalgia beats, the heartbreak, and whatnot. Let's see where this is actually why this movie is arguably possibly the most important movie in Phase 4 at the moment because this sets up so much and explores the concepts of the multiverse more than any film has up until this point. Like, what is it? Towards the end, when Eddie Brock was just getting drunk at the bar there, because I was wondering the whole time, it's like, yo, this is the Sinister Six. Where is Eddie and Venom? So out of nowhere, here they are getting drunk in a bar, Venom being Venom, and then I'm just like, I guess that's something. I mean, they're being funny. Oh shit! He left a piece of himself in reality. It's like, oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, this is technically the ending of 4 Spidey movies. This is the ending of Tom Holland's trilogy. Tobey Maguire's series never got a true ending. This is it. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man got an ending with this movie, and technically Venom, because the end credit scene had like this lingering moment where he was in the other universe, and then they closed it in this. So this movie like closed 4 movies all at once.
Yes, but it also sets up so much more. I don't think Tom Holland said he's done for a little bit, but like they got to bring him back in because what is it? It's like you were telling me with Venom now being in that version of the MCU, at least a part of him, that sets up for some of the events that are going to lead to Avengers Secret Wars. And
Yeah, exactly. And my biggest question was because Tom Hardy's Venom is from another universe, and he left part of himself in this universe. Is that part of himself? Is there like a tunnel that links them? Like will Eddie Brock's Venom like feel the presence of himself in the other universe, like a Harry Baltimore connection? You know what I mean? Will they be able to talk to each other? Will they be able to, like it's like how does that work? How is it that everybody got sucked out except for a small piece of Venom's DNA? Like how does that work?
it also and also there is the matter of the fact that Morbius is going to be coming out relatively soon. And the Michael Keaton's Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming has already been confirmed to be in that film. So, what is this leading up to in terms of, because you got to believe it's going to connect back to the Holland universe, but you don't know how. And what is it?
Yes. When I first saw the Morbius trailer, I honestly did not care. I didn't understand, there's evidence of all 3 Spidey films, franchises in the Morbius trailer, and I didn't understand it. But now that No Way Home came out, I am excited to see Morbius, and it took No Way Home for this to happen.
Yes, and also I don't think we're done with Garfield or Maguire yet. I mean, it perfectly ended their stories in their own separate arcs, but that either means that they're going to move forward with them, or at some point, one, if not both of them, are going to get killed off. Because that's how arcs work like that.
At this point, if, like, let's say hypothetically the third Into the Spider-Verse movie, the cartoon,
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to make any explanation other than the multiverse. The third Into the Spider-Verse could just be like the Spider-Men get together and then they go into a reality where they're real and not a cartoon. I'd totally watch it.
Now, also outside of the Spider-Verse, any part of the Spider-Verse, moving forward, because the very secret Easter egg ending of No Way Home was the teaser trailer to Multiverse of Madness. So, where is that going to go, especially leading to the fact that it is directed by the Evil Dead and Spider-Man trilogy creator himself, Sam freaking Raimi? What kind of implications does that have? Because we already have seen a snippet on how this affects the multiverse, the MCU in general. Because if you paid attention, towards the end of that teaser trailer, Doctor Strange is talking to Dark Doctor Strange. The only other time we have seen Dark Doctor Strange in the MCU, well, not actually in the MCU, in What If, the animated series that came out this year. So, is this connected? And if so, how many other ways can this go? Like, this is almost like Rick and Morty in the fact that any and all fan theories might legitimately have some weight. And that is a concept that is absolutely mind-boggling and kind of fun in some ways, because it sparks those classic debates of yesteryear as a kid on the playground. Is like, could Darth Vader go against like someone like Captain America, or name another space wizard? Like, these are but you get what I'm saying here.
I'm not even gonna lie, like, I can't be the only one who feels this way, but it took, after seeing No Way Home, it took at least a week for me to fully process everything and then get excited for Doctor Strange, because the No Way Home movie was so good that when I saw the Doctor Strange trailer later, I was like, this movie ain't shit. No Way Home is the greatest thing in the fucking world. And then a few days later, I rewatched the Doctor Strange trailer, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I am excited to see this movie. But the Spider-Man movie was so good that everything else was garbage. You know what I mean?
What? See, the reason Spider-Man has always been my favorite superhero is because out of all of them, like, you could even link DC into this too. Like, all of them, Peter Parker is the most relatable superhero, arguably, of all time. Like, he directly, well, you can also apply this to Miles Morales and the Japanese Spider-Man. These are just regular kids trying to deal with the pressures of everyday life and being a superhero and finding out where their moral code lies and how that they can work that, how they have to weave that into their everyday life. I mean, what was it? Going into some personal details for me the last couple weeks. The day I first went to go see No Way Home, my aunt had passed away due to COVID there. So naturally, I wanted to go see No Way Home, not just because Spider-Man, duh, but also to escape a bit of reality there. So you can imagine my tear-filled surprise when I heard Melissa Tomei's Aunt May say, with great power comes great responsibility, and I'm just like, no, don't you freaking dare. Don't, nope, you're killing her off. Yep, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself, movie.
It's fucked up, man. You and Peter both lost your aunts on the same day. You both went through a journey through demons. Like, what an adventure. No one saw Spider-Man the way you did.
It's, but again, this is why superhero movies are so popular nowadays, because they are the modern day epics of our time. These are the Ben-Hurs. These are the Ten Commandments.
These are the Greek heroes.
These are exactly. These are the Greek and Nordic and other pantheons of lore from before.
Yeah. And, before Spidey, Spider-Man was created in 1962. Before that, superheroes, their greatest problems were fighting villains until Spidey came and was like, "Oh no, you can fight villains and have real life human struggles." And yeah, that's why Spidey lasts. You know.
Oh my lord. Before we wrap things up, a couple of honorable mentions have got to go real quick to one, Mortal Kombat. Oh my god, that was a movie we've all been wanting to
Yes.
see. We got the gore, we got the special effects, and I don't care what anyone says. This was the pinnacle. If you had enjoyed the first Mortal Kombat back in the 90s, and some people even still enjoy Annihilation for all that it's worth, you have got to enjoy this movie. I don't know. I don't know why people would hate on it.
I've been a Mortal Kombat fan my entire life. My favorite game is Mortal Kombat Deception. That's the conquest game where you are Shujinko and you go through all the realms of Mortal Kombat and you learn the lore. Like I have Mortal Kombat comic books. I have the Conquest TV show. Like Mortal Kombat's lore has always been my favorite, and I was so pleased with this new movie. And I really think they did the best they could, because what people are not factoring in is like this movie had a lot of setbacks due to COVID. There was a lot of stuff cut, and working around COVID, this movie killed it. And no one expected Kano to hold the movie. I mean,
Oh my
he was
god,
funny.
Kano was the best part of that movie, for real.
And I felt like the details were great. Like when Liu Kang kept tripping Kano, it was like he was spam moving him, like what people do in the game for real. Like, oh, come on.
Yes, yes, and most of the actor's dialogue for Kano was actually improvised, believe it or not.
The dude was so funny.
Yes.
I did not expect that.
Also, honorable mentions will include stuff like Dune, the new Matrix, and also, what is it? My personal favorite, The Suicide Squad.
Oh my god, Suicide Squad was another surpriser. Like, holy shit, what a good movie.
King
I mean,
Shark. Oh my god, Nanaue was an absolute surprise, and voiced by Sylvester Stallone, no less.
I watched the Suicide Squad movie with my wife and her sister, and we all like fell in love with Polka Dot Man. His mother issues and just wanting to die. Nothing's more relatable. Oh my god, he
Yes,
was.
yes.
I love that.
And this was the first time we saw a live action Starro. Because Starro has actually been within the universe for so long. Like if you go back to old cartoons like the Justice League and Batman Beyond and Superman, Starro has actually been a major villain that has happened, that has come across the heroes of the DC universe so many times, and they gave, I guess it would be more of a accurate statement. They gave it so much humanity, ironically, being the fact that he's
Yeah,
just a giant
like
Patrick's the star.
this is a good time to be a nerd because we can literally display anything. Like Starro easily could have been done wrong. If this were any other time in history, all kaiju, anybody who played a kaiju was a man in a suit. You know what I mean? Like Godzilla. Those were giant monsters. People in suits. Matthew Broderick Godzilla was terrible CGI. So it's like that's what we would have had. People in suits are terrible CGI, and now kaiju are so fucking awesome. I think post Pacific Rim and like the Godzilla movies, and like it is the perfect time to have creatures like Starro. Like
and
he killed it.
And plus, with Suicide Squad, they're also breeded their own spin-off series, i.e., in the form of John Cena's Peacemaker, which some people can
Yeah,
debate about. But hey, Peacemaker was such a complicated. I can't call him a hero, but
he was the most
villainous out of the
accurate.
bunch, most
I'd say he
complicated.
was the accurate representation of a modern American.
What?
You know what I mean? His dilemmas were very current. I think that's why he was awesome.
Yes, yes, and God, I never give John Cena enough credit for his comedy chops, but he killed it with this one. For some other honorable mentions, I do on the video game side of things. For those of you who are fans of just blasting zombies in the face, I do highly recommend Back for Blood. If you had played Left 4 Dead on the previous gen consoles, i.e., being 360, PS3, and whatnot, you will love the fact that you and up to four friends can and will spend multiple hours just blasting hordes of zombies and super freaks right in the face. I know that
Oh,
brings me comfort.
another zombie honorable mention is Army of the Dead came out this year,
Oh,
and that was
damn, I
fantastic.
forgot about that.
Right? It's like, dude, 2021 was so packed that I'm still catching up. Like, I still haven't seen all the things I'm supposed to see. You know what I mean? Like, so much.
Yes. And speaking of honorable mentions, an honorable mention must go to today's sponsor, The Coffee Cat, located over right next to 100 Margaret. Folks, if you need a little bit of color and excitement in your day, then string on right down to the Coffee Cat, where there is such a diverse community of people that enjoy art, that enjoy the news, that enjoy what arguably many would say is the lifeblood in society. And that's a bunch of different like minded individuals sharing ideas, talking shit, and just trying to navigate through life's many, many intricacies. There
Yeah,
you can.
even not like-minded. I've had some of the best philosophical debates in my life in the Coffee Cat, and we all leave the Coffee Cat not hating each other. You know?
And also, that is a perfect place to buy local art, especially from one Mr. Sean Crowley, last I checked.
Oh, Crowley.
Gotta
Yeah, I mean,
love
you
us some
also
Crowley.
find Kevin Sabrin in there often, local artist and musician. Yeah, lots of great stuff in there.
They're always playing some different kind of jazz mix or some different kind of music that just feels so right. And if you go to the back there, you can always engage with someone in chess playing. And the color aesthetic of the Coffee Cat is absolutely breathtaking and to die for. So, Plattsburgh, if you were going to start the day off right, then start it off at the Coffee Cat, where everything is the cat's meow. All right, folks. All right, folks. When it comes down to the year in review in terms of the geek, the nerd, the nostalgia, flat out, we got nothing. Oh, actually, like, we could go on for another 90 minutes, but there has to be a cutoff, unfortunately, and there's still so much to talk about as the years roll on. And speaking of more to talk about, please follow Life on Saturn Productions on YouTube, on Instagram. And Saturn, do you have any projects to look forward to in the future?
Yeah, a few. My wife Lydia and I are working on an anthology comic features stories written by different friends, including yourself, DJ. Also, I'm working on a tokusatsu story that I'm submitting to an anthology. Hopefully, they accept it. Recently, I released a horror skit this year called The Phosphine, and I have another very tiny skit with that same actor. It's a comedy. That one will be out maybe the beginning of next year. I'm gonna say that's it for now, just because working on the comic stuff, drawing it takes so much time. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna end it there.
And other than the tag names and different social media sites I listed, where else would you like people to reach you at to follow more of your content?
We actually started a website recently called lifeonsaturnart.com. And we will be trying to update that as much as possible starting at the beginning of 2022. So definitely check that out. Yeah.
And if you would like to see what I personally provide in terms of my own art, please follow me at Catalyst Jost on Instagram. And with all that being said, folks, going into the new year, please keep your vibes dope, keep your zen flowing, and as always, peace.